Hi, I'm Dana, and today I want to talk about the overestimation of autistic people's abilities. And as always, this is just my experience. This is just how I feel about things and what I think about things and my opinion on things and what I've experienced. I'm not trying to invalidate or change anyone else's thoughts or opinions or point of view or experiences or whatever else. It's just the way I feel and the things I think. Because I feel like it's been one of the main struggles that I've had to face, honestly, as an autistic person, in trying to access support and trying to just live a life that's actually a part of society and not entirely isolated, is the degree to which people overestimate what I'm able to do and what my abilities are. I have one video in specific on this channel called Why Autistic People Can't Work, and it's one of the videos that sort of took off a little bit, I think, because I used such a divisive sort of title. And I've gotten so many comments on that, most of which I've deleted, I believe, saying well, if you can make a video like this, you can go and work a full-time job. And it's one of those things that doesn't even upset me, because I'm just in what way is me being able to sit in my room and speak to my phone any indicator of what I can do out in the real world? It's not, I appreciate that I am able to quite eloquently put across my opinions and my thoughts and my experiences on camera, and it's because I spend hours and hours and hours beforehand thinking of everything and scripting everything in my head. I don't write scripts, I occasionally have notes for videos, but I spend hours and hours and hours doing internal preparation and figuring things out in my head. And I really think that that's something that I'm able to do, because I used to work in a video shop come TV studio type place, and I had a bunch of projects that I wanted to film in the studio space, and my boss was always no, you can't just be oh, I have an idea and I'm gonna go shoot it now, you need to have this planned and you need to have this planned and you need to have this planned. And I was always I don't, I very much do have everything ready up here. And sure, it's useless if I'm working with other people and doing things. I understand in that case I do need things actually prepared physically. But for anything else, I just sort it out in my head. And that experience was something that made me think other people maybe can't or don't do that to the same degree, because that's how I feel like I have to prepare for every single day. Any minor social interaction I might have, whether it's with a cashier in Asda, if it's with a homeless person on the street asking me for money, whatever sort of social interaction I'm going to have that day, especially fucking coffee shops. I hate having to order coffee. Obviously I don't have to order coffee, it's me getting myself a little treat, but to get the little treat I have to order it. And those interactions stress me out so much. And I would say my favourite place to go get coffee is about a 40-minute walk away, and the entire walk there I'm planning what I'm going to say in my head and figuring out exactly what I'll say if he replies like this and if the replies like this, and how I'm going to stand and what my face will do. I already plan everything out all the time, constantly, and I have to not only keep the plan and actually work and wing it on the daily. It's all a whole contained thing, And it's that kind of thing where I feel people see autistic people manage to order a coffee, manage to chat to the cashier, manage to make a silly little YouTube video, and they're well, if you can do that, you can do this, when it's just not the case. Saying that isn't taking into context exactly how much preparation and how much effort and how much energy it takes for me to do those things in the first place. If I'm already using up all of my energy to do something very, very minimal and simple, I don't understand why you would think that I would have the energy to do something much, much larger. I think also, as someone who is able to speak and put across my thoughts and ideas and sound as though I'm a typical more or less, I might over-explain things a little bit, I might have a thought pattern that other people don't quite relate to, but more or less they can see that I'm figuring things out and my brain's working, and I don't know the fucking term that I'm looking for, I'm sorry, it's... they register that I'm a full-ass person, essentially. They're oh, you're autistic, but you also are a human being. And because they're sort of able to to some degree understand and relate to me, suddenly they completely forget that I am still autistic, no matter how normal I might be able to come across or how relatable I might seem or whatever else. I am still autistic. So as much as I might be able to speak and say the right thing and mask and come across everything's okay, I'm experiencing a huge amount of anxiety on the inside at all times, constantly. And it's also the thing of, yeah, I can say the right thing. I've scripted and I've watched hours upon hours upon hours of TV and movies and figured out how people are supposed to react in certain situations and how I should react. That doesn't mean it's a natural reaction, and that doesn't mean that I'm actually able to process the situation and process what's going on. I've had a lot of situations that have been straight up dangerous, where people have straight up been abusing me. I've been in many unsafe situations where it's not until weeks and weeks later or even longer that I realise it was an unsafe situation. I processed the situation that I was actually in. I don't have the same processing that everybody else has, but because I'm able to speak about things and put things into perspective and things like that, people assume that I do. A great example of this is when I was 16, I was on my way home from college at one point, and a guy stopped me near a cash point and was like, "I need money, can you give me some money please?" And I was like, "Oh, I haven't got any money, sorry mate." I tried to move around him and he moved and blocked me, and he's like, "No, I need money. If you don't have money on you, you can use this cash point." And I was like, I don't really have enough money myself to be getting you cash out of the cash point. But he just kept hassling me and not letting me leave until I drew money out and gave him a tenner. And it was literally like maybe like 6 months ago that I was like, I was robbed, I was mugged. Like, it was literally 10 years later that I processed the situation. Was like, I had a literal illegal thing happen to me. I was literally mugged. I had someone hassle me into withdrawing money from my bank account to give to them. Like, that's a mugging, is it not? Like, that's not okay. But it was literally like 10 years later that I would process the situation and actually caught up with what's going on. And that's one of the areas that I've really struggled with, like with jobs in general, like the way that everybody else lives on the day-to-day, when I was trying to integrate to that and be a part of it and live like everybody else, because I thought I was exactly the same as everybody else and everyone else is doing fine, so why can't I do it? And I'd go into jobs, usually agency jobs, because I could never nail an interview to get an actual real job. So like, I worked 4 days, I think, altogether at a Sainsbury's over Christmas, like several years ago. And my manager was an absolute fucking asshole. I hated that man. He was so unnecessarily mean, which is something that I feel like I experience a lot more than a lot of other people do, purely because of the way that my autistic traits make people react to me. So he was just constantly hounding me, because it was things like, I was shelving stuff, like it wasn't even like I was like dealing with customers in any way, and I'd finish putting stuff on that shelf, so I'd take the box and go over here and start putting it onto that shelf, and he'd come up and be like, "Well, you just moved the trolley, you wouldn't have to walk back to get the next box, would you? So then you'd be going faster. I just don't know why you aren't thinking about things. You just don't process things right, do you? You just don't think about anything before you start doing it." And I'd be like, I'm just putting my shit on a shelf, dude. Like, I'm so sorry that I'm not thinking about things. And it's one of those things where I didn't see him do that to anybody else, so I can only assume that they were thinking about things. And my brain is so like, I've been given this task and I'm going to do that task. I don't understand how I'm supposed to just automatically know the way that everybody else is going to do it, so I do it in the same way. I don't get it. I don't pick up on the social cues that are being given. I don't have this like automatic common sense that everyone else seems to have. And people expect me to. You know, in a lot of ways, I do have a lot of common sense. I've lived not entirely independently, because I moved out from my parents' house at 16 and with a man that was 5 years older than me, because he was already 21 when I was 16, but he was my partner and I did everything I could to look after him, because that was the dynamic of the relationship he situated, you know. I can cook, I can clean, you know, everything outside of paying the bills and doing a job, I did. I've figured out how to move house, I figured out how to book viewings, like, you know, I, to some point, have quite a lot of common sense for actual, like, day-to-day at-home life. But when it comes to the common sense that other people expect me to have, I just don't have it. And they're like, "But you're so smart, you can do this, you can do that, why don't you have common sense?" And I'm like, because I'm autistic, my dude. Like, we have the diagnosis for why I don't think the way that you do. It's there. Like, I just feel like the overestimation of my skills and my abilities and my like processing and brain power and what I can actually do as a person happens all the time, and it's so frustrating. And I feel like in a lot of situations I have been like withheld and basically like gate kept away from access and support that I need, because people assume that I don't need that support. And one of the things that really makes me think that is the fact that I've had 5 years of consistently like begging every fucking place that I can access, every place that I can contact, every place that is in existence around me, saying like, I'm autistic, I have level 2 autism, and my diagnosis literally says that I have substantial support needs, and I don't get any support. I have 2 close friends that offer me like a huge amount of support in the ways that they can. I don't have anybody else. I don't have family, I don't have a social worker. I don't know what I'm doing in life. I'm constantly anxious about everything all the time. Like, am I paying my bills right? Am I paying this right? How am I meant to get the money for this? How, like, everything about how life works confuses me. I cannot process it. I will read paperwork and I will read every single word and put each sentence together and read it over and over, and I can't process what the information is saying to me. Like, that's the thing, is anytime I get any sort of paperwork, when I've had to do my PIP assessments, all that kind of thing, I read this paperwork and I just panic and I cannot process a single bit of information that is there for me. And people are like, "But you can read, you can speak, you can do this, you can do that." just read it, and I'm like, I'm reading every single word, and nothing, like, it just makes no sense to me. It's as though you've sat a monkey at a typewriter and they've just smashed away, and like maybe there's an occasional word that I understand, but I don't know what the fuck it means. But people just assume that it's laziness, or that I can't be bothered, or that I'm trying to play on my autism, as though like it's not a diagnosis that I have. Like, I'm not playing on it, it's me displaying the signs of the thing that I'm diagnosed with having, you know? But after all of that 5 years of like begging and praying and asking and constantly contacting people and not having anyone get back to me, and being referred and not having them get back to me, and so on and so forth, me and my best friend decided that because I was doing a whole bunch of physical help for them, because they're physically disabled, they would be able to like take some of my mental load and start doing phone calls for me and contacting people for me. And all of a sudden, there is support available. There are people out there that are ready and willing to support me. Referrals are going through, you know? And I'll give that the main bit of support they've offered me is a fucking support group thing. And I emailed them because it said on the paper that I could. And I've still gotten a letter through saying, oh, you didn't phone us up, so we're not taking you now. And it's like, well, you said that I could email you, so I did that because that's much easier for me as an autistic person, and you're here to help autistic people. But okay, fuck me, I guess. But the moment that I have someone that's stepping in and acting as carer for me and talking to people on my behalf, all of a sudden there is support, and there are people who want to help me, and they understand that I'm autistic and it's really hard. But when I'm the person in tears having a panic attack in doctor's offices saying I don't know how I'm supposed to survive being alive, I just get left. And they're just like, oh, well, you got here, didn't you? If you can get here, you can get anywhere. And it's like, no, because just that has taken me a huge amount of preparation, anxiety, and I'm going to need recovery time, and it's a whole fucking nightmare. So I don't understand how I'm supposed to do something 10 times bigger than this on a daily basis. No, I don't. That's not how it works. You know, like, overestimating people's abilities is never very nice anyway, because there's going to come a point where they realise that they don't live up to your expectations, and you're going to be disappointed, and they're going to feel bad for having disappointed you and not living up to your expectations, and it fucking sucks. Like, as someone who's done it many a time, it fucking sucks. So it's already damaging for the people around you and the individual, in this case me, mental health, but it's also a thing of like, we are kept away and not given the support required because people assume that we don't need the support, and assume, you know, like, I've had some horrible things said to me both in real life and online from people who just don't think that I'm autistic and that don't think that I need support because I'm able to speak. That's the main one that people come back to, honestly, is that like, if I can talk as much as I do, then obviously I'm completely fine. And it's like, I have never in my life spoken as much to a person as I do to a camera. Like, that's the fact of it, you know? Like, I specifically have a very loud best friend because they can do all the talking. Like, quite frankly, the only situation I've had with them where they weren't the one doing the talking was when I got to meet Kevin Smith and was like, you're my favourite person. Like, I can't do this to people. Even my closest friends, once I've said like 3 sentences, I'm like, oh, this is turning into a bit of a massive paragraph now, and I better shop and let them talk. See, just when I start like really stuttering and stumbling over words in videos, it's because my heart has started hammering because I'm thinking back on the situations, and I feel so anxious even just sitting in my room telling a camera about it. Like, I feel like I am back in the moment, and it makes me want to crawl out of my skin. I absolutely cringe at myself. I absolutely, like, I cannot deal with it. And the amount of people that are also like, oh, that's just because you've overthought it. And it's like, I can't help the way that I fucking think, my man. Like, I've had like 6 rounds of CBT and genuinely given it my all. I can't help the way that I think. And it's one of those things where I also don't think that I've overthought it, when it's a case of like, I walk away from a social interaction and I'm like, ugh. Like, I make a fucking Tina Belcher noise on the reg because I'm just like, I hated that interaction. Like, even just like collecting parcels or getting like my food from the Uber delivery driver, just the tiniest interaction makes me feel sick and makes me want to crawl out of my skin. I don't want to exist because I'm just so fucking awkward. I find it so difficult to do any tiny bit of interaction with the outside world, and it sucks. I don't want to be like this, and if I could just not be like this like people seem to think, then I wouldn't be, you know? I just wish people sort of had less expectations of things. Like, I think that's one of the things that really bothers me about a lot of people, because I don't feel like I really have expectations, you know? Like, I always, see, that's the thing, is I definitely normally expect the worst. So anything that isn't the worst, I'm like, oh, that's a pleasant surprise. That's really nice, actually. So in the way that, like, I've definitely disappointed people by not being as, like, able and cool and confident and whatever else as they expected, I don't get disappointed by people like that because I'm expecting them to turn out to be an asshole. So if they're even nice, I'm like, oh, this is sick, you know? But currently, that is all I have to say for this video. It might be one that I remake in like a year because I do feel like there's a lot more to be said that I haven't like figured out yet. But this is what I have to say for the moment, so that's what you're getting. If you have any more to say about this, if you've got any thoughts or opinions of your own, I would really, really like to hear them in the comments below. I really enjoy getting to read y'all's comments, and they've so often in the last couple of years while I've been doing this helped me to like form opinions and actually figure things out and like realise when I'm wrong as well, you know? So I would love to have any comments of opinion. I've said this, my brain starts dropping out my ass at the end of videos. I've been talking for too long, but obviously if I can talk, I can do anything, right? So yeah, I post here on Tuesdays, Thursdays and Sundays if you want to like and subscribe and do that stuff. You can also follow me over on TikTok and Instagram if you'd like to. And if you want to donate to me monetarily, I also have Patreon and Ko-fi, but you don't have to, there's no pressure. You don't have to give me your money. Like, I'm not that fella that mugged me, you know, you don't have to give me money, it's just nice if you choose to. So yeah, that's the video. That's me over and out. Whoever you are and wherever you are, if you have a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I'll see you again in a couple of days.